Hey, can you see me? Oh, you can't see me, but you can hear me. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 19th episode of Sup Homeslice, the pizza shop on the corner of fantasy and betting right here. You never know who's going to pull up at the pizza shop, especially around lunchtime. And today we got a very special guest. Glad to have you on the show, my man, Fincy. What's going on, bro? How have you been, and how excited are you for the NBA?
Iggy, I can't think about anything but pizza right now after seeing that intro, man. I'm sure you get that a lot. It's great being with you, man, talking about the greatest sport ever, the NBA.
Yeah, man, I love it. One day I'm going to make my way up to Springfield, Massachusetts. Of course, there's a connection there. If you're unfamiliar, Springfield is where the NBA Hall of Fame is. But Vinci and I, we met, via the X, via the Twitter, online. But we met face to face at the NFL Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. And I just want to talk about that real quick. The Expo, we're going to get to that, talk about it real quick. We'll get to the NBA, man. But it was a real pleasure to meet you there. And you can meet so many great people in our industry there. And you just find out they're just regular people that love talking about sports, love nerding out on fantasy sports. And any just quick comment about your experience at the Expo, because this is my third year, but my first year, I believe, to see you there, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been going. It's funny because I was actually, before the Expo became the Expo, the first couple of years of the Kings Classic, I was producing from the radio side of it. And I just thought being out there added some authenticity, which is what Bob Lung wanted to do. And people love going out there and making it into an Expo. Dude, it's a shot of dopamine when I go out there because I get to meet new people and just talk to people that love sports. You're in one of these sports landmarks, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and all the glitz and glam that goes with it. We're partying in the backfield and everything, and it's awesome. And just getting to meet people, seeing how nice people are, Iggy, getting to even talk hoops with you, even though it's a football convention, we still get to talk a lot of hoops, and just learning about what everybody does in their process, whether it's DFS and betting and how they got there. A lot of great stories, and it's very, very fan friendly. And I always appreciate it when people come up and be like, "Hey, I listened to you on Sirius XM. It's fun." That makes my year right there. So it's an excellent time.
Yeah, before we get back to the split screen, let's still keep it on you, man. I got to listen to your NBA preview. You still can find it, I believe. Just go search NBA preview. I listened to it on Channel 87. It could be on Channel 86 as well. I'm not sure. But please tell everybody where to find your work and where they can hear you and what times.
Sure, absolutely. Then again, Iggy, I thank you for bringing me on. FantasyGuru.com is where you can find all my work. I do a lot of NBA work and NFL as well. From the NBA side, I do multiple days of DFS breakdowns, a lot of betting at FantasyGuru.com, a lot of also, Iggy, watching along with people in our Discord too. Every week I do a watch along Wednesday in our site's Discord, just so we can watch the games together and learn about these teams, learn where we went right, where we went wrong, and do it in real time. And one of the reasons why I do it, and by the way, you can hear me on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. I'm on every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern with James Cohen. I fill in different spots on the channel as well. But the big thing about the Watch Along Wednesday, and this is something, Iggy, you can relate to because you're just so great with people and bringing people together. I believe in the old process of learning by seeing, and watching the games is just so important. And I feel like a lot of the younger sports fans don't do that. They don't have the time. They don't allow themselves to have the time. I still believe, and I'm perfect proof of that, I learn the most by physically watching these games and taking notes of what I'm seeing. That's how I've learned best to understand the game.
Hey, I love it. Yeah, I used to be a big tape head, especially with the NFL on the defensive side. Like, man, every time they get in 3rd and 6 or more in this situation, this linebacker comes out. He's in the nickel package. But in basketball especially, like, why is this coach sub-packaging this guy in right now? Oh, this is his new front against a 4-and-1 offense or what have you. So a lot of data to be there. You can tell by listening to our viewers out there. Our man Justin here knows his NBA. He's a true data person, a visual person, all together wrapped in one. And a pleasure to have you here, man. Before we get started, let's make you a little bit more hungry. Get that dough ready with the thing we call the dough roll. So yeah, Evan's supposed to get me some pictures there. We both worked at a pizza place. I've managed a pizza place, done everything you can think of, and we got the bets up for the NBA, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But bring it here to last week. Evan carrying us once again. When we get to it, we talk about our bets, Justin. We track our bets. Every bet I do because I'm a spreadsheet junkie, kind of like that. But I want to focus in. We ended up getting 5 wrong last week. Of course, we tripled down on Demario Douglas, and the Pats did not come through. But
I don't mind you doing that, by the way, because I actually had him stashed on a few of my teams. The guy was getting targeted. It just sucked that he was sick. That's really what it was. We saw it, by the way, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you can't kick yourself about Demario Douglas. He was getting that volume. That's why I kept him stashed. It just stuck. And from the beginning, it looked like he was going to get there again, but the guy just wasn't feeling well.
You blame it on London. That's always fun to do. We can blame it on the UK over there. Last London game, there is going to be a Germany game, but yeah, just to go back to the roll there, you can see we still rolled with Drake May. He got the 1.5 touchdown passes. So Evan pretty much carrying us these last couple of weeks, man. Shout out to him. He's a fantastic bettor. And we won 5.79 units last week. So we're up to 23.03 on the season. Not too bad, man. But before we get to coming up, we've had 2 great days of basketball. And just what stuck out to you, Fancy? What did you notice in the games? I know your prediction for the championship, we'll save that to the end of the show, so make sure y'all stick around to hear that. But what anything particular pop out to you? Maybe, New Orleans, I feel terrible. DeJounte out, Zion out. But what popped out to you? Anything special?
I mean, the Celtics 3-point shooting to start out the season. I mean, what a statement. And look, going into that, I'm kind of kicking myself because I did not think the Knicks were too new. Them getting Karl Anthony Towns as late as they did, I should have realized they weren't going to be ready for this matchup because this Celtics team is just that good. So seeing the Celtics, here's the thing with the Knicks. The Knicks were losing by 25-30. They weren't shooting badly. Their defense stunk, but they were over 50% from the field. That's a discrepancy there. The Celtics were hitting everything. They weren't missing. And I'm used to the Celtics being a little bit more methodical, utilizing that lane. They just kept firing away from 3, and they weren't missing. And the Knicks took a while to step up on them. They were waiting for the ball to drop and for them to start attacking. It never came.
Yeah, that they were so lights out in that game. It was. I don't know if that was the strategy or if Tatum just felt it, man. What was he, 8?
They were doing it, bro, in the preseason. That was the thing. And I noticed it a little bit, and I saw some people write about it, that they were firing away deep. It's the preseason, man. I mean, you don't take it overly seriously, but they were emphasizing their play from the arc, and it carried right through. And it's funny because now, tonight they go in to a completely different game environment, one that's going to be fast-paced. And I'm thinking because of the Wizards' new size that they have, they're going to be trying to emphasize that game plan early once again.
Yeah. I mentioned Jordan Poole, actually, and my bet for Fantasy Alarm. If you want to go check that out, you can go to Fantasy Alarm, look at the best bets. But I think Poole's going to have a good night, either from playing catch-up or just still having joy that he's playing basketball and not being wore down from the season. But Boston-Washington is going to be pretty intriguing. As one of the best teams of this decade, if the best team of this decade plays the worst team of this decade. So we'll see how that all pans out. But, yeah, man, let's go. I mean, what I noticed, I guess, before we go is Los Angeles might be pretty good. They look different to me. Something about them was different. I don't know if that was opening night or what. Minnesota, New York, they did what I expected them to do. They're going to take a little bit to get their rhythm. You don't trade for somebody earlier in the month or 3 weeks later, everything's going to be just, right, peaches and cream. It's not how it's going to work, but they're going to be good. I think those moves will work out well for the organization. But I do want to get to tonight. We do have 4 great games tonight, 2 of them on TNT, which I stayed up, because of where I work, I stay up late. But I watched the TNT broadcast all the way to the end. And it's just a joy to see Chuck, Shaq, the Jet. I love seeing all those guys together. And it's good to see it. And I'm glad we got TNT games tonight because we got San Antonio versus Dallas. I grew up outside of Dallas, so it's still a little small part of me that loves the Mavericks, I think. But then, of course, the Oklahoma City Thunder at the Denver Nuggets. What I think is probably going to be the best rivalry of the next 5 years, probably the best rivalry to close out this decade. Is there anything that you're looking at from like a fantasy perspective, or that you like, an angle you might like, or anything out there tonight, Fincy, that you see in these games or the other two games as well?
So the other two games, by the way, with that, I mean, with Minnesota, Sacramento, I'm just wondering. The Kings are a very big wild card for me. Them getting DeMar DeRozan doesn't exactly make them ultra competitive. Like, I don't see this team fighting for a top 5 spot unless they're ready to shoot as well as the Pacers did last year, which I don't see happening. And so I'm interested to see with Minnesota if they're going to try to play with a little bit more speed. They tend to not do that, but I'm starting to realize with a guy like Julius Randle, Randle's going to look to attack, and he spends a lot of time with the ball. If he's going to spend a lot of time with the ball in this offense before Anthony Edwards calls it back a little bit, he's going to have to make a move. This isn't the Knicks land where let him just do ISO and then see if it works out. There's going to be a lot of pressure to pass off to Edwards. So that's why tonight, when it comes to this Minnesota game, I'm wondering if we're going to be seeing a lot more when it comes to quickness from Randle getting to the hole and being able to stay there as opposed to spending more time at the arc, because the Kings are going to want to start to use speed and the Wolves are going to want to slow them down. So I think the Wolves need to throw a little speed at them, not work as much at the arc, tell Gobert to back the hell off a little bit, and let Randle try to work the post against DeRozan.
Yeah, I was looking at his rebounds. It's at 7.5, I believe. So he got 9. I'm still trying to see how they're using him. And how it's going to be played. And then you got Sabonis on the other side. My goodness, it's going to – I don't know. We'll see how that plans out. But I'm waiting to see how DeRozan actually impacts Malik Monk. Like, are they going to go deeper with their starters with Monk coming off, 6th man of the year candidate? I'm really interested to see how he does. I have a lot of shares of Malik Monk in best ball, though. So that could be a little biased, Justin. And, yeah, dude, I'm obviously so pumped for the Nuggets game tonight, but there is a lot of potential with Wemby and San Antonio versus Dallas. I think it's going to be a very interesting game. The old 35 shootout. We're going to get to see how Klay Thompson works out in Dallas.
Yeah, man, who's losing out besides PJ Washington? Who's losing out now when it comes to the offense? At some point, it's got to impact Irving and Doncic. I mean, at some point, when you get a guy like Klay with where he's at in his career, the guy's brought in to hit threes. That's really what he's going to do. He's going to live and die by the three. It's going to take away from somebody else. Now, they don't have to utilize their centers and power forwards for offense. Washington, you set him up in the corner. That's where he's best, and he'll hit corner threes. But at some point, someone's going to lose. And I don't know who it is. I feel like it's going to be Kyrie that's going to be battling for shots against Klay a little bit, lowering his production ceiling. Yeah,
I think it's one of those moves that are great for reality and not great for fantasy. I think that's kind of what's happening here. And they obviously have their mindset on, WCF and NBA finals. That's where their head's at as an organization. So we're going to get to see how it works out. I think Wembanyama is going to have a great game. I think that's something I'm very much appreciative of. But I'm going to pull back up the screen right here. I'm going to take a look at something that I'm really happy about, and something we just call a stuffed crust smash.
The pizza boy, look at it go, make it dance.
I think you muted yourself, Iggy.
I was about to say thank you. Yeah, I don't know if you like stuffed crust. We love it. So this is just something we really like, an angle we really like. And one thing I really enjoyed tonight is Victor Wembanyama's rebounds. I think Daniel Gafford. No disrespect to him, no disrespect to Derek Lively, who's actually my second most owned player at this moment in the NBA. I just think, Wembanyama, he's got an 8-foot wingspan, Justin. Like that's almost double what I'm trying to fit into the screen right now. And I just kind of think that that front court of Dallas is not their strength. Their strength is obviously their backcourt. So how do you feel? Do you think Wembanyama's got a big fantasy night? Do you think they're going to kind of keep restricted his minutes, which we kind of saw after the All-Star break? Or do you think he's going to be full let go? Popovich is saying, go out there, let's start the season right, let's make an impression. And he's going to have Chris Paul, man. So I'm really interested to see how the San Antonio thing breaks down.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that he put on a lot of muscle in the offseason too, Wembanyama, that's going to be big here. And you mentioned the front court with Dallas. Lively is a good defender. Gafford was more their offense guy. Lively at first was defense, but then you started to see Lively develop his own offense a little bit. I love that number. I actually saw that number go down on DraftKings. And look, Iggy, this is just who I am when it comes to betting. For me, if there's a juiced up bet, I'll up the unit size. If I think it's that transparent that this is going to hit, it went down to 10.5. It's at minus 135, man. You sprinkle a little bit more dough on that. I think that you're good. I know that you got it at plus money, which is great, but even it's gone down. That's an excellent number right there for Wembanyama. He's just a guy that's hard to really box out in general. So that's where I'm looking. And something to look at as well whenever Wembanyama is on the slate, see who he's facing, because last year I was able to get a lot of low center point props against him. Now he's put on more mass, but does that mean his aggressiveness in the post has increased because he put on more mass? We have to see. So that's where you can maybe look to attack him. The problem is tonight with Dallas, as much as I want to give Lively that green light, Gafford's still there. So if they need more offense, they're going to go to Gafford and give him a few more minutes, and you could be seeing an even split. That's the one problem with betting on one of these centers, because Lively's point prop is very appealing tonight.
Oh yeah, let's look at it real quick since we got the game up. I'll pull it back up on the screen.
It's appealing, but it's like I'm again, it's like the water's ice, and I'm like hesitant to just jump in because Wembanyama did put on that mask. You have to think that a coach, if we're able to figure this out, and we're just a bunch of schmoes at this point, if we're able to figure out that you could score on Wembanyama in the low post despite his size, I'm sure the coaches have figured that out too and have tried to address it.
Yeah, and you're dealing with one of the greatest coaches of all time over there with Greg Popovich.
Right.
So we'll have to, see how the adjustments come around. But yeah, people forget these guys are still young. Like they're still developing in their broadness and their muscle mass and their bone mass. And Wembanyama is going to be something special. I'm super stoked for him. I bet a lot on him last year, and he did me really well. And it's interesting because Daniel Gafford, when he was with Washington, a big bet for me. Like who's Washington playing? All right, let's look at their center. Let's look at their power forward, and we're gonna look at the rebounds and take the best one to get the over. It was just that automatic at one point.
It's not like that anymore, though, Iggy. It's changed over there in DC because it's the opposite. Because Gafford's such a poor defensive center. Now the Wizards have Sarr and Valanciunas, and Valanciunas is an underrated defender. He doesn't, again, he's in short spurts, so he's best when he plays 25 to 27 minutes. What I call the what was it, Hassan Whiteside rule from 10 years ago. There are some centers that are just good in 20 to 25 minutes. Gafford's one of those guys. Same with Valanciunas, but Valanciunas and Sarr there, even if Washington is still running at the fast pace that they did, it wouldn't be surprising to see them improve because the bar is low. They were the worst team against bigs last year. Now with the size that they have to be improved defensively in the post.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to something I've said for multiple sports, for fantasy and betting. Coaching is going to matter. Jason Kidd's gotten more out of Daniel Gafford in half a year than Washington was able to get out of him in multiple years, or Chicago for that matter. I say that with DeAndre Hopkins, the big news is coaching's going to matter. Andy Reid's going to figure out a way to get Hopkins open. I know a lot of people are saying don't get too high on Hopkins, and that might be fair, but if you're going to be low on Mahomes, then you should probably be low on Hopkins. But I'm kind of high on both of them because they haven't played that well, and they've got an excellent offensive mind over there in Andy Reid. So it's going to be pretty interesting, I think, to see how that happens, and how that pans out. But Daniel Gafford, living proof of that, my man. Let's get into something I call the sauces boss, and this is a plus odds bet.
Cold pizza Tuesday.
All right. SoCal saying we love Lively at TSA. Yes, we definitely do. Evan, thanks for hopping in with us. Get those comments coming. If you have comments, I see them coming in on X. I can't really answer to all those, but go to the YouTube. If you have a question or a comment for Justin, man, we'll answer it, man. I'm sure we'll try to get it. We're not saying we'll be right, but we'll answer it. And take a look at that. Hey, I don't know how many people know about this going on. king of the court. They got a picture of Shaq up there. What it is, you get a boost to be able to put on a player, and if you bet that on a PRA, a popular bet, it's called points, rebounds, assists. Very important for fantasy as well. You can, if you get the right person, you get to share $1 million with whoever else chose that person. So definitely take advantage of that. And Justin, who we're looking at for our Stuffed Crust match today, it's a little guy named Nikola Jokic. And
you know what? I was about, you know what I was about to do? I was about to go, because I see it's still at plus odds on DraftKings, and I was about to go with the Thunder money line. I was. And the odds wouldn't be that way if Hartenstein was still in. But here's an interesting one, because, again, I think that this is going to be fast-paced. And I'm thinking, let's say Boston just completely handles Washington. I think we could see a few more minutes from this guy. So something I'm interested in, maybe a Drew Holiday over 5.5 rebounds tonight. This guy's aggressive, and the Wizards' backcourt isn't like the defensive front court that I'm expecting. And I think that there could still be a lot of Drew Holiday in there.
You know what's good about long shots, too? They give you long boards. A lot of times those three-point shots go to the guards sometimes, as opposed to the forwards and the centers.
No one talks about that, man. And that's the thing. I started to learn more about that, actually, when I watched a Dennis Rodman documentary on how he used to study where the ball would bounce. And, if the ball bounced at a certain point at the rim, he knew where to stand. He learned that. He did, just by trial and error like 1,000 times. So it got me to start to think about those teams that are high-octane offenses that move fast and will shoot and likely brick. We're talking about Jordan Poole here. Will brick a lot of threes, and that's where a guy like Holiday outside the post could be able to benefit.
Yeah, it's interesting. Rodman also counted the rotations on the ball, too, to know when the timing would hit the rim as well. Pretty intelligent person, even though most people won't say that, I think. I'm going to bring back up the screen here. At least intelligence in basketball. Everybody you meet is intelligent, Justin. It's just sometimes, most of the time, people specialize in that intelligence. So if you're willing to learn, man, if you compete with just about anybody, even that guy that came up all wild, can't remember what he was telling us that night at the party, but I remember his energy. True, New York, high-intensity energy.
I'll tell you what happened. There was a big cornhole tournament, and what happened was there was a team that somehow got split up, but it was still in the tournament. And that guy who was getting upset, Colby Conway's friend, his partner abandoned him to join the team after they got eliminated. His partner abandoned him to join the other team, the person that needed the teammate. And then that team went to the finals or something. And the other guy was just sitting there being like, he's my partner. He turned on me. And that was a bit that night. See, come to Canton for the Fantasy Football Expo. That's what they take the cornhole tournament very seriously.
Yeah, it is a very competitive tournament. You got to get past Bob Long. I mean, he's great at that, too.
He's good. I didn't realize that. Bob Long is very athletic. I know that he used to do fantasy camps as well with the Cleveland when they were the Indians, now the Guardians. He used to do Bob Long is an athlete.
Yeah, man. That deception, maybe, athletes come in all ages, all sizes, and everything in between, man. But yeah, going back to it, I do feel good about his PRA tonight. You got Luka tonight. You got Wemby tonight. I mean, those guys can do it. Last night, a guard won it. It wasn't John Morant. He came in second. It was LaMelo Ball. Led everybody in PRA yesterday. And the people that chose him got over $1,000 free bet. So we're just, Nicola's already been criticizing his team. He's saying we're not where we need to be. He's like, we took preseason lackadaisical. I'm not happy about that. So I expect him to come out and make a message in this game with, and let's be honest, man, Chet Holmgren, he weighs less than us, Justin. He's the 207-pound twig out there. And in previous matchups, Jokic has just been able to really, put his body into him and move him out of the way to get these rebounds. So I think he 14, 15, 16 rebound now is not impossible for Jokic. And then the assist, it just always depends, man. It could be game 7 against Minnesota, and he could be dishing dives and nobody making it. Or it could be one of those nights where everybody's making everything. MPJ's dropping, Aaron Gordon's dunking. Jamal Murray's out there doing his thing when the passes come too. So I like Nikola Jokic to make a statement tonight, 47.5. And as long as you take that boost, we got a chance to share in that $1 million of whoever else would take Nikola Jokic.
They're going to run a quick offense there. It's going to be good. It's going to be. It's a good spot for them. They're going to run a quick offense. They're going to have to. But here's the thing I got to ask you as the Denver fan. Where does Russell Westbrook fit into this? Because here's the thing. Russell Westbrook, as much as everybody clowns him, he's actually a good defender. And losing KCP is massive. It's a joke that KCP went to who I think is the best defensive team in the NBA, the Orlando Magic. You're putting one of the tops in the game on the best defensive team. It's just, feel like they're going to need Westbrook. Do you think that they start him alongside Jamal Murray, let him play a little bit more off the ball, in a way kind of like Booker and Beal start together in Phoenix? Or do you think Westbrook is going to be that sixth man? Because they need his defense.
I think this is a dynamic answer to your question, but that's why they got him. Malone's come out and said it. He said people don't realize the Clippers weren't playing Westbrook until the end of the game when they needed him to come in and lock down their best player. And so it's kind of got shut. It's like Westbrook's like a polarizing figure. People that love him, and people that hate him really hate him.
Well, that's because Iggy, I don't want to say cheated. He stat packed his way to the MVP. The MVP should not be only about stats. You get a guy on a team that was starting to sink, and all of a sudden it was known everybody was staying out of the way. So at the end of the game, the ESPN had all the highlights. He stat packed his way, and it makes me appreciate players like Oscar Robertson a little bit more, who actually were able to average a triple-double without having the whole team needing to stand back and fold their arms.
Or Saquon Barkley, right, who sat on the bench and didn't go get his career best, right? Like,
I saw that clip this morning, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool clip right there.
Yeah, it speaks a lot to his character. But but I think part of that answer is like I think he's going to be in to close the games. Christian Bond, not a great defender. Julian Stallworth, great offensive player. If they're behind or something, I can see him playing. But if they're up, I think they're going to leave Westbrook in with the second unit, give him a little bit of a break, and say 7 minutes in the fourth quarter, I think he joins Jamal Murray, because then you got three pretty good passers between Jokic, Murray, and Westbrook. But then people forget, man, Murray. It takes a lot for him to complete a season, and when Murray goes down, Westbrook's going to be a great backup to come in and be a field general along with Jokic, and he just looks really happy, man. Westbrook looks like competitive. Everything I'm reading from the reports is saying, he's talking trash to these guys, and they're finally responding to him. He's like changed kind of the culture a little bit of that team, which, nobody's saying that Jokic and Murray are the hard guys. That's Denver's not the hard team, but they are very physical. It's a kind of an underlying tone between their front court of MPJ, Gordon, and Jokic. But yeah, I think Westbrook's going to be fine. I think he's going to have a bounce back year. And Coach Malone, I think he's a very underrated coach. That's part of the reason LBJ wanted to go to possibly Denver as opposed to LA when he did, was for Coach Malone. So I think he's going to be able to get the best out of him, man.
Do you think we see 25 minutes from the guy, from Westbrook?
Not without a Murray injury, because I think he's going to be pretty crucial, but I think he's going to be very effective on the floor. I think when he's on the floor, I think he's going to be playing with teammates he really hasn't had in a way that he hasn't had since OKC. Both LA teams, he wasn't used how he should have been utilized, and I think that we're going to see more of what he was doing at OKC. Let's go ahead and get a word to our sponsors real quick, Justin, and we're going to talk real quick about Thursday Night Football, and we're going to come back to NBA and then round it out with that. So here's a commercial from our very great people at Better Takes.
Find your win tuition and elevate your sports betting with Better Takes. Better Takes examines your betting history to uncover hidden areas that cause bankroll leaks. Uncover patterns and biases so you can break the cycle of mistakes, avoid weaknesses, and play into your strengths. Our advanced stats offer unparalleled granularity, helping you immediately spot problem areas that could be affecting your success. Use the Better Takes Edge Score to gauge your expertise for each potential bet, providing clarity and confidence in your decisions. Take control of your betting journey. Download Better Takes from the Apple App Store or Google Play today and start understanding your biases for free. Before placing bets, check with Better Takes, a smarter, more informed approach to sports betting.
Hey, I don't know if you know this, but the Rams have only covered the spread one time this year, and we got the Rams hosting the Minnesota Vikings. I almost said Minneapolis. And it's going to be a pretty interesting game. I think, it's weird because both of these teams are in talks for trading each other's quarterbacks. So I don't know how that's going to pan out necessarily. But the Rams have only covered the spread in one game. They couldn't even cover against the Raiders last week at home. So I thought that was a little bit dumbfounding. But their defense isn't well. As somebody that studies defenses, they're missing Ernest Jones. They're missing Aaron Donald. Their secondary, their safeties are getting kind of picked on. And it's just trouble all up the middle of that field. I think the Vikings get a get-back game. I think everybody was quick to hate on Sam Darnold last week, but, he kind of did his job. If the Vikings would have closed out that game and kept the Lions from coming down, they would have won it. So I'm taking -3 on the spread. And when I go to my Better Takes app, you download the app for free, and then you'll see the front game right there. It's always hard for me to get the lighting, but you can see I've taken the spread right there at 2.5 points, and then you put your bet there. And then you click to analyze it, and it says it's right under 50%, which is pretty good in the betting world. Like I tell you, if you get to 55%, you're an amazing bettor. You need to go to the casinos, and you need to rake them for all their money that they got, okay? Because in this industry of fantasy and betting, that 5% margin is what all of us are living on. And when I do that, it tells me, like I said, that it's a 49% bet and that, you should play it. And that's what it does. It goes through all my history, and then it tells me, like, hey, historically, when you bet on the spread, this is how you do. And then tonight, your odds are at about 50%. And it's at -115 on DraftKings, but -105 on MGM, -105 on FanDuel as well. And like I said, you click Analyze Bet. It brings up this information. It's literally that simple to help you get rid of your biases, right? You like betting on your home teams? You like betting on your favorite teams? Download this app so you get some kind of check on yourself, so you're not just willy-nilly thinking your team's going to win every game, blow them out by 20. That's not how sports work. I'm sorry. Back to you. What do you have about tonight? You got any fantasy players in? You got any DFS you got going on, Justin? What do you got going tonight?
By the way, I love that bet tonight. The Vikings -2.5. It's like I'm wondering when the piano's about to fall on her head. Literally, I think it's that great. Kind of like I thought about, by the way, last night with Milwaukee just favored by 3.5 points.
Oh, yeah.
No Embiid and Paul George. Thank you. It's like, and I thought that, and I placed the bet the other night, and then I was still seeing the odds or the spread rather at -3.5. I didn't understand that. So I'm with you there. Something, from fantasy standpoint, Aaron Jones, I think that's going to be a good one tonight. I'm also, by the way, potentially looking at his rushing or receiving yards, one of the two. Kind of leaning a little bit more towards those receiving yards, those dump off passes. And this Rams defense, like you said, not a good defense. I think the Vikings will be able to have their way with them.
Yeah, man. I bet it. I double unit bet on the Milwaukee Bucks. I didn't understand that either. I was like, this sounds like it's going to be, I thought it was going to be Giannis with the great night. Turns out it was Damian Lillard. I think that team is slowly shifting to becoming Damian Lillard's team through Doc Rivers. I think that like the Giannis-centric approach is going to switch to the Lillard-centric approach, which it should be. He's a great point guard. I don't knock him for it. But yeah, tonight, -3. I may place another unit on it as we get closer. We'll see what's going on. And from another perspective, from a fantasy perspective, you got to get JJ in. I think he's going to have another fantastic night. It's hard for me to know. You just pretty much have to have Cooper Kupp in if he's going to play. If not, Tutu Atwell might still be worth a look at. Other than that, it's kind of difficult to know between Robinson and Johnson and Wellington who's going to do well. Of course, Kyron Williams, they're going to run him, try to control that clock. But I expect it to be a kind of a slow first quarter, and then I expect Minnesota to make the offense and defense adjustments and just kind of really run with this game, to be honest with you. Anything else to talk about football before we go back to basketball? Are you good?
Yeah, I think we're getting some points tonight. The Cooper Kupp just really puts a lot of water, like you're saying, on these pass catchers, on who you can trust from a fantasy and even from a betting standpoint too, because he's a volume guy. If he's out there, he's not there to be a decoy. And especially, by the way, and this is where I think reality kind of mixes with fantasy a little bit, and I notice it around the NBA trade deadline, is that they're showcasing with these players too. If they're trying to truly sell Cooper Kupp, then they're putting him out there at this point to stud him so that other teams can take a look and see how he's running and analyze and see if it's worth whatever the asking price is. So if they force him out, the Rams at this point, we're at the bottom of their division, if they force him out there a little bit more and they're just trying to sell, then yeah, that just makes me even less excited about any of those other options outside of Kyron Williams.
Yeah, I didn't think about that little window display. You know what you do?
So much in the NBA, bro, and it's annoying. They force these guys that are really hurt the team more than help the team. They force them out there an extra few minutes right around the trade deadline so they could try to sell them.
That's a great observation. I appreciate you telling me that, Fancy, because that's something I didn't really think about. I should, because here's the pizza show. What's the first thing you got to do? Get the window pies ready so people see them, smell them, and bring them into the shop, man. So we're going to bring in our pizza parlay right now.
Pizza!
So, my man, you told me
I'm
love
so
pizza.
hungry right now, dude. Seriously, man.
Let's talk about food, Vinci. I see you in the Seattle Supersonics jersey there. You got to make sure you take that off when you're eating something really saucy and toppings might fall off. How I like my pizza, kind of. But how do you like your pizza, my friend? Do you have a favorite pizza shop? If you get if you could build your own pizza, all those questions, what do you got for me, man? And real quick, thank you. We got 100 viewers. Get those questions in. Thanks all for joining. Make sure you click that like and subscribe button. All right, yeah. Break it down to me. Lay down this pizza. Make me hungry too.
I mean, casual pizza. I'm a big pepperoni pizza guy. My favorite pizza place is this place on Long Island. I grew up on Long Island on the North Shore of Long Island. Mario's of Oyster Bay. I love their buffalo chicken slice. Buffalo chicken slice is probably my one seed when it comes to pizza. But I also, besides liking regular, I like thin crust a lot too because it's good for dipping because I'm a big sauce guy. So thin crust, it's awesome. It's like having chips with like premium toppings on it. That's how I view it. So I like that. I also do. I mean, we were talking about cauliflower crust. I like that as well. But buffalo chicken slice is my favorite pizza. And I grew up in New York, so I'm kind of spoiled in that regard. I now live in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area where there's not as much great pizza.
Yeah, I hear that DC's got a lot of great food, but maybe not the pizza compared, like you said, to New York. Of course, I get Scott Engel on here. He's a big kind of pizza snob with some of the places he says he only eats at. So New York forever has it. I had a slice, just some random slice, and I went to whatever that spot is on the south end of the Brooklyn Bridge that a lot of people go to. I
mean, there's definitely Joe's Pizza in the city that is like the most popular that everybody goes to.
It was something popular, trendy that we wanted to do while we're waiting on our layover. But yeah, man, it's hard for me to find a pizza I don't like. But I'll tell you what, man, we used to make this pie, and I would put the buffalo sauce down instead of the marinara, and then we had the chicken, which was marinated in the buffalo sauce, red onions, and something else on there, man. And it was super popular. Like if I made it as a pie window, it would fly out the window just like that. So you're not alone in the vinegary pie department. It's just
vinegary pie.
But the wet ingredients are hard on the pie, man. That's what I taste when I taste the buffalo sauce. But no, I love it. Like I said,
I've never heard a pizza pie described as a vinegary pie. That's amazing.
That's an ingredient in the sauce over there for you. But, man, I love all pies. What we do on this show is I build a three-person parlay, or a three-ingredient pie, So, like, right now I'm really hungry. Pepperoni makes me sound good. I have this thing called green chili down here in New Mexico and Colorado that I really love. It's like spice, but it's not like jalapeno spice. So I need a little bit of that. And I probably would go with some, like, smoked provolone. For some reason, that's sounding really good, too. Just layer the cheese up on there. But what do you like tonight? As far as any player that we haven't discussed yet, or even just a regular game? You said Oklahoma City on the money line. We could throw that as a base, as our kind of sauce base on this if you want. What are you feeling tonight, my man?
Throw that in there, and then our pepperoni is going to be the Wembanyama lower line as well. So we can also include that. And then I'm trying to see what's another nice, like, high total here. I mean, here's the problem. With Boston and Washington, this game could get out of hand. So I'm trying to think about, like, who has a safe floor. I mean, it's a 14-point spread, Iggy. I mean, if they're not up by close to 20 points in this game after what we saw the other night, something's wrong where they're shooting 0% from the field. So, man, I'm trying to find out. I mean, it's weird because I want to take the over on that Celtics-Wizards game, but I can't fully go there. So, like, do we go with, like, a cheap point prop, like someone who we know is going to be out there, like a Koulibaly or something?
Well, let's bring up the screen. Let's not rush this decision. We got about 5 to 10 minutes, and we're going to talk about our. We're going to bounce out of here. But yeah, I mean, what do you think? Do you think we should look at Sabonis? Do you think that's somebody we can depend on to open the season at home? Do you think we should look at maybe Minnesota player, or should we kind of come back to Dallas? Or no, I can't really look at Dallas because then it would be a same game parlay or same game X. So, that's kind of our options right there. We got to do something in the Boston-Washington game, or we need to do something in the Minnesota. So do you trust the Sacramento game? I mean, that spread is pretty tight. We can almost do a pick from there. Or if you want to do a player prop, who would you feel comfortable with in a game one setting?
Man, if I'm looking at Sacramento I just have the points up right now. If I'm looking at it from a scoring standpoint, I mean, that Malik Monk 12.5 looks nice. It's a little juice, but it looks nice at 12.5. I mean, he should be involved. And against the second unit, I like it better. The other direction I would go is looking up. Maybe, again, going with a low point prop on, like a Kispert, hoping he hits some threes in this game with the second unit.
Yeah. Do you see his line anywhere, or?
I see it at 12. I see it at 10.5. That's not bad.
That's basically 4 threes or three in a bucket.
Yeah, but also no more Denny Avdia. Maybe he's able to get to the basket a little bit too.
Let's see.
I like the pace in this game. What are you thinking?
I think you're right. The pace will be there. Like I said, I'm already on pool, so I want to look somewhere else. Let me pull up the points. I got to say, as just a pure critique, and I get why they're doing it. I hate having to scroll to the bottom to look for the over/under. Let me see what your computers are thinking before I make my decision as well. You know,
honestly, dude, you got it. Yeah, we have to be careful with that because a lot of those like algorithms and stuff, they don't take into account, especially early on in the season, what we're seeing on that TV.
Yeah, I remember last year, man. I won 8 Scotty Barnes bets in a row because they didn't account for him moving off the ball.
Same, man. And you know what? Him, Kobe White, they did not move that line. They did, and then they moved it, and it was no mercy after that.
It was. Yeah, I paid the price on them both. But dude.
Oh, yeah.
And I love Kobe White.
And Embiid for a while, his points and rebounds, they weren't moving that up, and then they had to move it to like 49.5. It was at like 43.5 for a while, and you're like, this guy plays all the first, all the third. He's going to get there. Now we don't know when we're going to see him.
Yeah, don't get me started on Embiid. I feel like he really took the Bruce Lee metaphor, become water. He took the easiest path on everything, and he still hasn't been in an ECF. We'll burn too much time on that. So I'm looking at the pace of this game. Like you said, Kispert 10.5. Do we like that? Do we want to go? I mean, Kuzma, that's too high for me, 19.5.
The problem with Kuzma, I feel like here's the problem with Kuzma now with the way the lineup's shaking out. If the lineup is what I think it's going to be, with Kuzma at the 3, Sarr at the 4, Valanciunas at the 5, cards subject to change on that. But if that's the case, Kuzma is going to be stuck at the arc like a Jabari Smith. I'm in total wait and see mode. But when I was thinking Sarr was going to be coming off the bench, I was mega excited about Kuzma. Kuzma in the post is the best Kuzma. We learned that from the old Lakers days, and then they changed up his game. But now if he's sitting there at the arc more, takes him out of rebounding, takes him out of scoring, and now we're all married to the shooting percentage with him. It frustrates me.
Well, should we take the under on 19.5, or do you think that's a gamble?
It is a gamble because he's going to get the volume. But, I don't mind that. I don't want to be under there.
Well, let's look at. I'm a rebound guy. That's when I first started betting. Legally,
Same.
I should say, was the NBA, and I was just always on the rebounds, man. We love those props. Let me bring this to you. Sarr's at 6.5. Jonas is at 7.5. They're both kind of juiced right there. But which one, if you're picking between those two to make this third ingredient on our pie, it's a little spice. It's a little spice, but who would you rather have? Sarr at 6.5? Are you taking the over or the under, or Jonas at 7? If I could find the first quarter bets, I love it on Jonas, but I just don't know how they're going to do this rotation. I loved it when he was in New Orleans because that was all he was going to play. He was going to come in and get 6 rebounds and go to the bench. Which one do you prefer?
So I think that the safer option is going with Valanciunas because you don't know how Sarr's going to be. Look, we saw it with Zach Edey. Zach Edey got very physical, and then he fouled out and barely played. That was a big problem. And I don't like to take things from the night. I like to try to clean slate it. But again, this is his first game. So I feel like the safer option is taking Valanciunas. Watching the Celtics, by the way, one of the things I noticed is that Jericho Sims was able to get a lot of good positioning as well when it came to rebounds. The Celtics would start because, again, they're shooting a high-octane amount of threes. They got to get to the arc. They have a lot more running down the court, so the Knicks were able to grab some cheap boards from that, and I think that can benefit a guy like Joe Val.
That is an outstanding pro point that you just mentioned right there. With them all shooting the threes and getting ready to run back, it did leave a lot of rebounding opportunities available. That's why I took Horford on the under. That was my bet of the night for that. I knew he wasn't going to play much, and I just knew that he wouldn't be able to bang with those guys as much. So we're taking Jonas in over 7.5. Let's hope it's at first of the season. And, he played a little bit more minutes. I've always liked Jonas Valanciunas. He's been one of my favorite prop guys. So I think it's very fitting on this pizza pie betting that we're building that he's on there. So this puts us at plus 536. I'm only going to put half a unit on this, as I suggest with most parlays. But that is a heck of a come up. If you put half a unit, you still get a little over 3 units back before you take out for the ROI. So there you have it. Pizza pie. I know I've been keeping you a long time, Fincy. I'm just having a lot of fun talking basketball.
Man, it's great. This is what it's all about, dude. And that's why it's great talking with, guys like you. It's just, we're all here because we love sports and we love talking sports. That's what it's all about, man. It's not even a job.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I'm getting really hungry with this pie. I may have to go to my pizza shop here a couple of blocks down the road after this. But yeah, let's just get to it. We'll skip over our best ball teams and exposure. We'll talk about that another time. But I would like to know who you have winning the NBA Cup this year, if at all possible. Who is your MVP? And give me your conference finals teams as well as your finals winner. Let's break it up right now. Why don't you just tell me about your NBA Cup winner and your MVP? Then I'll kind of bounce off and we'll head into the conference finals and the finals after that.
I think that the NBA Cup winner is going to end up being probably the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think they're going to end up taking the cup this year. Yeah, no, I like them this year. And in fact, I like them so much. I think now, after Minnesota made the trade that they did, I think they now represent the West going to the finals to face the Celtics, and the Celtics will repeat as champions.
Yeah, I knew you liked the Celtics. That's a hard. They're the third year in a row they've been the favorite. They're the best team of this decade, so I think that's kind of interesting as well. The Cup winner, I actually put a little money down on the lowest side, Chicago. I know they are in Boston's group. I just think if they can make a trade for one of their guards and beef up and just win those 3 games and become the wild card team, they might have a chance. I think the Lakers are going to push pretty hard for it again. Them winning the first 2 years of that would kind of be like a benchmark. So I think I'm going to go Chicago or LA to win the Cup. MVP for me, I think there's going to be some voter fatigue with Jokic. I think it might be SGA. I think that's what I'm going to go with my MVP this year. A little remorse. They were tired of voting for Jokic after 2 years. That was the whole reason they gave it to Embiid. They said not necessarily he didn't deserve it. It's just they're tired of voting for him. And then SGA they're going to have to play a little bit like they did last year because they made a small splash. You being in New York, living in New York at one point, Isaiah Hartenstein came on hard, plays really tough defense down there. They needed that presence. They're going to have Holmgren down there to start. We'll see how that bounces out for them. But SGA is going to have to do a little bit more work, I think, without Hartenstein being there to kind of be a presence for him. So I think that'll lead to more assists for him, probably a few more rebounds for him as well. Kind of a quiet part of his game, honestly, is his rebounding skills. People don't realize how great of a rebounder SGA is. Conference finals, man, I got to go with – I think it's going to be – the West is so tough, man. Let's just get the East out of the way. I think it's going to be Miami-Boston. I really do. I think Miami's going to be better. Yeah, even after that horrible game last night, I think that Pat Riley's Pat Riley, man. To be honest with you, when I was little,
I don't think Pat Riley is good anymore. I think the game is starting to pass him by.
It's aging by. Well, what about Eric Kiss? What about Spoles? You think it's passing by?
I like Spo a lot, but the way the roster's constructed, they're kind of just being like the Warriors in a way. They're trying to just hang on to this core. Like, decide what you're doing with Jimmy Butler already and move on. Is he the future of this franchise? I guess he can be. I don't like a lot of the pieces around him right now. I love Bam. Yeah. Tyler Hero, I don't love him. I don't. I like Rozier a little bit more than Tyler
Hero. I like Rozier better than Hero. But I think Jokic is going to step up this year.
Yeah, that's true. I think that the way Pat is starting to handle it, I think his time in the sun is gone.
They might just Butler. I just know that they're one of those teams once they get to the playoffs, if they're healthy, they're trouble, man. They have been.
Agreed.
But in the West, I got to have my Denver Nuggets going in there. And
Yep.
I'm trying to think about the other two teams. I think it might be Dallas again. They got a great head coach. I know Mark Cuban's not the owner, but he's still very involved in their operations. I mean, look at the trade line deals they made last year. Boom, got them into the finals with that. Let's see how this Klay Thompson thing works out. If Luka's still driving and drawing pressure and he can kick it out, I think this is going to work really well for Klay Thompson and the Mavericks. So that's my Western Conference prediction, and I think I got Denver beating Dallas this year, and I got Denver beating Boston in the finals. The match we were all denied last year, I think that's the match we get this year, and it's really going to be for the best team of the decade. We're really fortunate to see these great teams play against each other, and I think it would be awesome to see these two powerhouses essentially go at it for the finals. Was your MVP SGA before we bounce out of here? Or?
It was SGA. I'd also give a little bit of love to Giannis as well. We can't forget about him in the Bucks and his impact. And also Jason Tatum, again, not as big of a stats guy, but the impact this guy, he's the heart and soul of the Boston Celtics. He's the nucleus, and that should be considered when deciding the MVP.
I agree. I think we empathize more with that than just being somebody looking at the stat. It's crazy to me. A lot of these guys that vote on that should know that. A lot of them have played the game or been involved.
They do, but like you said, Iggy, I mean, Jokic should have been MVP, 3 times in a row, and you knew it. They didn't want. They were looking for reasons not to give it to him, and he fully deserved it.
Yeah, that's why I try to stay away from a betting perspective. I got the year TJ Watt got burned that everybody thought he was going to win it. Aaron Donald, his third one.
Iggy, I know the Thunder. I know Daigneault got Coach of the Year last year. How you don't give that to Jamal Mosley of the Magic?
Yeah,
I will never understand that. And I was betting that at plus odds, and I was thinking I was going to be able to buy myself a sailboat or something like that because it was at plus odds. And I'm just like, this Magic team, who would have predicted that they'd be a top 5 team in the Eastern Conference? Nobody. They were one of the best, a top 3 defensive team last year. Nobody thought that they were going to be that good going in. He deserved it. And the fact that the Thunder got the 1 seed on the final day of the season, I just was shocked. Look, they're the top team. Great. But they could have easily been the 3 seed. Whereas with the Magic, who would have thought they would have been that good?
And beat Cleveland in the playoffs, causing them to fire their head coach after winning, after going to the playoffs. The coaching carousel in the NBA is a real one. It's the opposite of the NFL. Like, you're going to get this opportunity. We're going to give you a few years. In the NBA, you could coach, you could be ham, you could win the NBA Cup, go to the Western Conference Finals, and still lose your job mid-season. So no disrespect to those guys. Any closing remarks? And please tell people where to find your work again, and we'll bounce out of here, man.
Absolutely. And again, Iggy, it's been great talking with you. It's been a lot of fun. At Fensty Sports, FENSTY Sports on X and Instagram, and find all my work at fantasyguru.com. You can also hear me on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. That's SiriusXM Channel 87. Every Sunday night, a little NFL post-game action, talking about everything that went on during the day while covering Sunday Night Football, 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, that's a kind of a cool time to be on, to review and still have a little bit of the live. But make sure you go check that out. I got to close out with, you're wearing the Supersonics jersey. When I was a kid, I grew up in the middle of nowhere, right? Loved basketball, played AAU basketball, all that stuff, right? But like our driveway was caliche, right? So sometimes the ball would bounce out and stuff like that. But in my mind, I was always playing against Sean Kemp and Hakeem Olajuwon because growing up, I was what they call husky. I was a bigger kid. So not necessarily the tallest, but when you're fatter, you still get stuck down at the post, right? And so for some reason, I had to throw in the ball. I was like, this makes no sense. Why am I having to throw in the ball every time and run down the court being the fat kid? But luckily it paid off. And I just want to say thanks for wearing that Supersonics jersey because it reminded me of those great, great Supersonic teams. George Karl, the claw, or the glove, excuse me, not the claw. Sean Kemp, Gary Payton, Detlef Shrimp, right? Is that how you say his name?
Yep,
I butcher that sometimes. But I was always a fan of those teams, and I always played against Sean Kemp in my mind. So thanks for wearing that Supersonics jersey, man.
Absolutely. Sonics always give good vibes, and hopefully soon enough the NBA will be back in Seattle.
Yeah, we're going to see Memphis and New Orleans move to the east, I think. Maybe Minnesota. Yeah, but yeah, I think they're going to kick them out and put Seattle and Las Vegas into the West.
New
We'll
Orleans,
see how-
they can't stay in one place. They're Charlotte, they're New Orleans, they're Oklahoma City. They can't. They're like your flex option right there.
Hey, go Bobcats, baby! But yeah, hey, it was really fun, Vince. You had a blast. I feel like I could just keep talking forever. I know you're busy. Make sure you go follow my man, check him out on Sunday nights, and go back and listen to the NBA preview. Simply just put it in the search bar. A lot of great information. I took a lot of that, so thank you for sharing that with us as well. All right, man.
Thanks so much, Iggy.
All right, guys, you guys take care. Remember to like and subscribe this video. You can come back and go at any time. And as always, we appreciate you spending your time with us. A lot of viewers today. Felt like a great episode, and I just want to let you know that you really are appreciated. Take care, everybody. Oh, wait. Yeah, I'm unmuted. I think we're good.